Yes, my friends, welcome back. We have three massive stories to break down for today. In today's reports, we discuss the massive news surrounding Manuel Ugarte, as currently we are in the running to sign him for next season. To move on, we have a nice feel-good story, as it was reported today that under 14-year-old Charlie Holland has been spotted training with the first team. And to end things, the club have announced that they are freezing season ticket prices for the 23-24 season. So right now, my friends, we've got a ton of things to break down, tons of things to discuss. I hope you guys enjoy. Share your thoughts and opinions on today's reports, and of course, if you like today's video, like it, and if you don't, that tells me to work harder for next time, and I'm more than fine with that. So I guess without wasting any more time, let's start things off by discussing the feel-good story of today, because it has been reported that under 14-year-old midfield player in Charlie Holland has been spotted training with the first team. Now, this is really impressive. Congrats to Holland and his family. And Holland was able to win this opportunity by captaining the Chelsea under 14 team to a 5-0 final win against Fulham in the Albert Freeland Cup South. So, like I'm really emphasizing, this is incredible news, and congrats to this kid for impressing so hard to get this opportunity. Now, it's incredibly easy to get too excited, to start overhyping, and to start putting tons of unnecessary pressure on someone that hasn't even finished puberty yet. I'm not gonna lie, with a platform like mine, I like to be a bit responsible. I'm not here to start putting out, unnecessary comparisons and unnecessary hype. I don't think that's right. And to give you guys the best context, Mr. Youth Football himself and Chelsea Youth gave the insight behind why he's got this opportunity. Currently, there's no under 21s or under 18s to turn towards right now. So Holland has been rewarded for his impressive performances in the Albert Freeland Cup South. For me, I think this is a great story. I mean, I'd imagine the club didn't really want to advertise this to start putting unnecessary pressure on this kids. It was just spotted randomly because first team training sessions were being recorded today. But it's a nice message to send out to all the age groups at the club, because Cobham has been incredibly important over the past 10 years. And there has been some fears that many youth players feel like there's no pathway to success in the first team, because we sign guys, or we're signing counterparts the same age as our best talented players. So for me, rewarding first team training sessions is a good acknowledgement, and it shows that the club are paying great attention to what these kids are doing. And for me, this would provide tons of motivation now for a Charlie Holland to really take advantage of this experience to push his career on even more. I'd imagine he learned so much from training with these guys. And I'd imagine that for a kid that's playing for one of the best, most competitive youth squads across Europe, he wants to do this again. And I like that. You're cultivating that winning spirit, that mentality, and you're cultivating that professionalism to push yourself on, because when you push yourself, these are the rewards you get. Like I said, this doesn't imply that he will be the next Maradona or something like that. We shouldn't be putting this much unfair pressure on kids, in my opinion. It reminds me of this light-skinned kid from a few years back, Nwandi, I'm definitely saying his name wrong. Tons of nice skill comps that were being showed off online. But currently, he's not even part of the academy anymore. I think he's currently with Reading at this point in time. So there has to be a sense of realism when you're dealing with kids who are, again, not even fully developed and haven't even finished puberty. Anyway, massive congratulations to Charlie Holland and his family, because, when you're putting your kids through academies like this, it's a big time expense, it's a big commitment and sacrifice you're making. So little things like this shows you that this is why all that sacrifice was worth it. So for me, nice feel-good story to see. I guess we keep our eyes out for Charlie Holland. And now let's move on to the big story today. Now, this story has been floating around for a while, but personally, I've been waiting for something more concrete to discuss. And it seems like we've got this today, because based on the latest reports, we are the latest side who are interested in securing the services of Manuel Ugarte for next season. Now, I'd imagine that we've been following and scouting him for years. You have to understand that with the biggest clubs that have tons of resources to, do scouting expeditions across the globe, Manuel Ugarte will be someone that's been on our radar. And that's for good reason, because he made his professional footballing debut for Felix back home in Uruguay at the age of 15 years old and 233 days. He currently has the record in his homeland, and again, if a kid is playing professional football as a teen, you'd imagine that clubs are going to be knowing about him instantly like that. Anyway, the reports today suggest that Ugarte is seen as the ideal reinforcement for our midfield issues for next season, because as we all know, we're hoping to sign a more defensive mid. Now, his agent is very confident that Ugarte is most definitely leaving Sporting Lisbon this season, and he actually feels that his client's future will be decided within the next 15 days. And it makes a lot of sense because currently Ugarte has a €60 million release clause, which is around like £51 million. And once you exercise any player's release clause, you don't have to talk to Sporting Lisbon. You're instantly talking directly to the player and his agent. Now it seems like Jorge Mendes will be involved in this deal because Jorge Mendes is involved in any big move that's happening in Portuguese football. And can you see why it makes sense that him and Todd Boehly have a very good relationship? Because with a guy who has this much power and influence across the world, especially in Portuguese football, it's good to be on this guy's good books and have that relationship. Now, from what I've heard as well too, it does seem like maybe his agent is pushing his client's services more than the club actually, going to Sporting Lisbon to start discussions. That is not a bad thing. You have to understand it like this, especially for South American talents, when clubs buy them, they're buying their economic rights. For example, when Sporting Lisbon signed him from Famalicão, and I know I'm getting that wrong, from Portugal, they bought like 50% of his economic rights, and then Famalicão then bought around like 80% of his economic rights from Phoenix in Uruguay. It seems this season in particular, a lot of clubs are hoping to conclude their business before pre-season. So it makes a ton of sense why his agent will push his client's services to all interested parties, because it's clear that he is most definitely leaving Sporting at the end of the season. Now, Football Insider released a report a handful of days ago suggesting that they feel very confident that we're about to capture the player. They might not be the best source in particular, but a lot of these times from these like smaller reports, sometimes they're giving the information way before the big outlets get there. So now that we understand the news, I want to spend some time now discussing why I feel like Ugarte could be the DM to sign for next season, and I kind of feel like partnering this guy alongside Enzo Fernandez, this could be an absolute stroke of genius. And I think Ugarte possesses the stuff that I personally look for. So I'm no scout or nothing like that, I'm a football nerd, but for me, I like players that can perform a tactical role, but they can do a lot more. Like, in a sense, they can outperform that. Like, for example, look at Rodri. Yes, he plays as a CDM, but he can also regulate the play. He can also dictate the game. He has an incredible shot outside the box, like a box-to-box midfield player would have. And how many goals does that get for Man City? Like, he's a DM that is a lot more than a DM. And I feel like Ugarte is in that same type of bracket because, wow, I'm really impressed by him. I watched his games against Arsenal. Yes, he got sent off. But if you look at the details and the finer aspects, it really reveals a ton about how this guy thinks, his mental ability, how he performs on the big stage, as well as his technical capacities as well too. And I'm saying capacities like such a nerd right now, forgive me my guys, but let's continue on. And I guess to focus on the bait aspects of his game, that's this guy's incredible defensive game. And I really mean that because he excels in all the finer things when it comes to defending. Not only is this guy incredibly successful in winning his personal duels, he's an excellent man marker. He has an excellent understanding of the game, and he isn't like a headless chicken on the field. Like, he knows when it's the best opportunity to close his man down and regain possession. And for me, the best DMs are the guys that regain possession quickly and then instantly kickstart an attack. That's what I want to see. And listen, I saw Claude Makelele, one of the best CDMs of all time, constantly doing that when he was our player back during the early years under Roman Abramovich. I remember Joe Cole saying things like, I was receiving passes from Makelele in areas where I didn't even know I could receive them. And that is the power of having, technically excellent CDMs protecting your back four. And if I was to give you my personal comparison, I see a little bit of Michael Essien and Manuel Ugarte. It's how he carries himself in the fields. It's his legs, his ability to dominate, the technical capacities, because this guy is playing under Ruben Amorim. He's playing, a very possession-heavy style game. So you can't be wasteful in possession. You can't be finding the wrong passing options. You have a lot of responsibilities to help win those midfield battles. And then the great thing with guys like Ugarte is that because he has the technique and the defending together. It encourages his teammates to push on further forwards. That's what I want to see. I feel like we have the midfield guys and the attacking guys that can benefit from having a guy like this, where they're going to feel encouraged to constantly make moves in the final thirds, to push on. At times, I feel like our movement as a team over these past 2 years is a bit too rigid, and due to how rigid it is, it means we're a little bit predictable when it comes to figuring out our plays and nullifying us. And my thing is, if you have an Ugarte who's at the base of that midfield that can obviously kickstart the next phase of play, that can combine excellently alongside an Enzo Fernandez, well, hopefully Enzo can push on a bit more because, listen, we currently use him as a regista, but he can easily influence the game in the final third. He's been playing as a box-to-box mid for large parts of his career. And if you have like a Mason Mount or someone else alongside that, I think this is a midfield three that really complements each other. And at the same time, you're weakening your rivals because Newcastle, Liverpool and others are currently after him, with Liverpool being one of the main favourites based on reports at this point in time. For Ugarte, it's simply this: do you want to compete with Fabinho or do you want to learn from N'Golo Kante? For me, Ugarte instantly boosts the quality of Liverpool's game in midfield. We have to weaken them, and you know, one fascinating thing about this window in particular is that finally there's like an abundance of really exciting and excellent defensive mids. I rate Declan Rice very highly, but for the price that West Ham want, it just can't happen. And I think now that there's equally exciting prospects outside of him, we have to take advantage of that. And knowing the fact that you can buy Ugarte for around 51 million for a guy where, I mean, look at the FBref stats that you've been seeing on screen. I don't always necessarily feel like FBref stats are like the be all and end all to like judge and determine a player, but it does reflect how these guys excel in the current system and tactics they're currently playing in. And under Pochettino, possession football, high intensity, attacking football with wing play. And there's a lot of like complementary tactical things that Amorim currently does at Sporting Lisbon. And I kind of feel like Ugarte has the mentality. I mean, the guy's been playing professional football since 15 years old. And he comes across a bit of like an anomaly type of player in the sense that, you know, his capacities are greater than the sums of his parts. You guys have been watching his incredible technique on screen. I mean, look at the press resistance, that ability to maintain and keep the ball. Like, listen, if you want to be beating Man Cities and winning the Champions League against guys like Real Madrid, it's nice to rely upon tactics, but it's also helpful to have like those quality guys that can actually compete against the very best head to head. And I think Ugarte is someone that can really boost what we're doing as a football club. And in my opinion, he would be the guy that I would target. Anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. As you can tell, I'm gassed, I'm excited. Let's see how this story plays out. Obviously, share your opinions on this now. And to end things, let's discuss another big story today. And to end things quickly, the club have announced that they are freezing season ticket prices for next season. Now, for me, this is a big win for the Chelsea Support Trust because they've been campaigning for a while now to freeze the prices for next season. And today, the club officially acknowledged on the main website that due to our very poor season, due to us not having Champions League football for next season, and due to the cost of living crisis in the UK, it is fair not to boost prices, but prices will be boosted in other areas like the hospitality section and the members section and like premium seating areas in the stadium, which I think is fair because for the hospitality section in the stadium, I mean, they're mostly bought by companies and businesses. And I think if you can afford like very premium seating in the stadium, then I don't think a price rise is going to really affect your ability to watch the game too much. So I think that's a fair trade-off. At the same time though, don't be surprised if like the general admission tickets and members tickets do increase. But you know, most people are securing tickets that way. They tend to be one-off games. So again, obviously it sucks that prices increase, but as the club have acknowledged, to maintain that sustainability, especially to like, you know, keep in accordance with things like FFP, they must find ways to increase revenue streams ethically. And to find ethical ways to do so, of course, they are going to liaise with like the fan groups of this football club. So I expect the club to evaluate more ticketing strategies going into the future. And I guess already I'm getting pretty excited now for the 23-24 season. So my friends, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts and opinions. And if you like the video, like it if you feel like it. And if you really liked it, yeah. So my guys, on that note, I'm EFC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.